What's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name is Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live from Budapest, Hungary. The time right now where I'm at is 5:02 p.m. and it's October 22nd, 2024. I got about an hour before English class that I got to go teach with a group of Hungarians out here. So let's just get to it. I got a few stories that I want to cover today, mostly related to the election. But before we get into that, about a year ago, I covered this story about this young black man, unfortunately, named Jayland Walker, who was murdered by the police in Ohio. And I talked about the video. That was in the time of my mass shooting era when I was covering all the mass shootings that were happening in America, and also the occasional horrific shootings of unarmed civilians in the U.S. by police. And that was a commentary that I gave. And you can find the link for that video in the description of this live stream. Now, some update on the story that we got from the New York Times only a few hours ago. Let's get into it. I'm going to unplug my phone because this thing is messing with me. Let's go. So let's go to the title right here. Jayland Walker's family settles with Akron for $4.8 billion over police shooting. The family had filed a lawsuit against the Ohio City Police Department after Mr. Walker was fatally shot by 8 police officers in 2022. Sorry, it wasn't a year ago. It was over 2 years ago. And this backs up everything that I say on my channel all the time. The number one thing black men can do is die. The one thing we can do to guarantee generational wealth for our families is we just got to make sure if you're a young black man living in America, just go get shot by the police. Ain't nothing going to change. Ain't nothing going to change. The best thing you can do for your mama, for your wife, for your kids is get killed by the police, because America got money to send to Ukraine. America got money to send to Israel. America got money to pay the families of dead black men, but they don't have money for reparations. They don't have money to invest in the infrastructure in black communities. They don't have money for that, but they got money for the relatives of deceased. So if you're a black man right now, the best thing you can do is just walk up with your hands up somewhere in America and hope the police shoot you in the back. That way you can guarantee your kids got college, and maybe you can create some generational wealth for your families. Let's read the story right here. This was published on October 21st, 2024. The family of a young black man who was fatally shot by 8 police officers after an attempted traffic stop in Ohio in 2022 settled a wrongful death lawsuit with the city of Akron for $4.8 million, the mayor's office announced on Monday. And I hope that family ball out of control. I hope the Walker family ball out of control. The family of the man, Jayland Walker, 25, filed a federal lawsuit seeking at least $45 million in damages against the city of Akron and its police department, including the 8 officers in June 2023. The lawsuit claimed that the officers used excessive force when they fatally shot Mr. Walker. The statement from the office of Mayor Shamas Malik said the city's vehicle pursuit policy has been updated after a review, and the talks continue with the family and the community on more changes. I don't know who Shamas Malik is, but that is a black-ass name. So that's another thing black men can do. If you can't get shot by the police, at least a politician, a lawyer, or something like that. And I checked out Shamas Malik. Nope. But he's probably an ally. Brown man right there probably said, yeah, that could have been my son to some degree, right? Who was murdered by the police. So yeah, let's do right by this family. Let's continue here in the story. Mr. Walker was fatally shot by 8 Akron Police Department officers after an attempted traffic stop on June 27th, 2022 that led to a chase when Mr. Walker did not pull over. Officials from the Attorney General's office later said that the officers shot at Mr. Walker after he fired at least one shot at them from his vehicle. Now, I make this clear already in the Jayland Walker video I did over a year ago, but let me make this clear again. I am not defending criminals. I am not defending people who shoot at police. I'm not defending people that commit violent crime against other civilians. Not at all. The point I always make whenever we talk about these horrific shootings of American citizens is that to get the guns off of the street. We have no reason to really critique the police if you do not have a critique also of the gun culture in America. If you say less Americans need to have access to weapons, so therefore the police will have no reason to be in fear of their lives and shoot at civilians that they think are holding guns, whether they be black or white. And yes, we know that it's sometimes racially motivated when police shoot citizens because a disproportionate number of the citizens they shoot tend to look like me. I absolutely get that. But at the same time, if we're not also saying that we got to get the guns off of the street, We can't also be constantly pointing at the police saying, y'all got to stop shooting us, because the police get shot too. Darina Horvath jumped in here. She said, hi. Hi, Darina. How are you? Hope you're well. Anyway, let's continue here. So the officers fired more than 90 shots at Mr. Walker, who sustained more than 40 gunshot wounds. Wow, 40 shots. 40 into a man. That's according to the Ohio Attorney General's office. The shooting prompted a series of protests across Akron, a city of nearly 200,000 people that's south of Cleveland in northeastern Ohio, and drew fierce scrutiny of the Akron Police Department. This is crazy. This family is going to get $4.8 million. They're going to get like 3 LeBron James games where he plays like full court press for their son being killed. The family of Mr. Walker in the city of Akron filed a joint status report on October 15th, informing the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Ohio that they had reached a settlement. The city of Akron and a lawyer for the Walker family declined to comment about the settlement before it was finalized. The police department said that officers had tried to stop Mr. Walker for equipment and traffic violations after midnight on June 27th. Mr. Walker did not pull over, and the police followed in their vehicles for about 7 minutes, according to their account. Video of the episode appeared to show a muzzle flash coming from the driver's side door of Mr. Walker's vehicle. A popping sound can be heard in the video, and an officer reports gunfire coming from Walker's vehicle. Mr. Walker is then seen running away on foot, and officers chase after him. Officers try unsuccessfully to use stun guns on Mr. Walker before firing their guns. Mr. Walker then falls to the ground. I saw the video, but I paused when the gunshots popped off. But yeah, it's another horrific murder of an innocent civilian in America. And for all the people that are international out there, I want to ask the people that are watching this live stream who are not from America, how many civilians get murdered by the police in your country? Darina Horvath, you're from the UK. How many citizens get murdered by the police in your country? In our country, it's in the thousands every single year. Every single year. Now, some of those deaths are suicide by cop, like when somebody purposely tries to attack the police because they want them to take their life or something like that. Maybe they're too scared to take their lives themselves, etc. But a lot of the times, these are unjustified. These are unjustified homicides because police believe somebody was reaching for a cell phone or reaching for something in the glove compartment, then they just let off shots because the police are on edge, rightfully so, because so many Americans have access to guns. All right, continuing here. The Ohio Attorney General's office said that Mr. Walker had fired at least one shot at the police from his vehicle, but that he was unarmed when he was being chased on foot by the police. The 8 officers were not identified by name in the family's lawsuit. The police department had previously said that it would not release their names because of threats made against them. In April 23, a grand jury in Ohio declined to indict the 8 officers in the death of Mr. Walker. Sounds about right. Sounds about right. That's pretty American. The jury said, you know what? Nope, we don't see any problem here. Cops killing civilians makes sense. Yep. Okay. A decision that drew more protest. Attorney General Dave Yost of Ohio said after the jury's decision that the question for the grand jury was not whether this was a horrible tragedy, as it clearly was. The question the grand jury was charged with evaluating was whether the officers were justified in their actions. Mr. Yost, the grand jury, 9 citizens who lived in Summit County, determined that the officers were justified in murdering a black man in this case. Yep, it's murder. Yep, we can do it. It's justified to shoot at civilians, right? Regardless of what they're doing. This is the thing, man. I imagine in an alternate world where we finally get rid of the gun culture changes in America, that these incidents where somebody is like running away in a car or running away, even if they're, potentially armed and dangerous, they just sort of take the tag numbers and wait for the gas to go out in the car. That might sound foolish, idealistic, naive, or something like that, but it's what we can hope for one day when we finally get the change that we do want to see in America. Continuing here, the grand jury, which lists more than a week's worth of evidence, issued a no-bill indictment, meaning they did not find sufficient cause to charge the officers. I would like to know the racial makeup of that jury, but it doesn't because even black people can buy into white supremacy. Either way, that's the story of Jayland Walker right here. Hopefully his family does something well with the money. Hopefully the lawyers don't just eat up funds and the family's left with pennies. And hopefully they're able to use this bread, use the $4.8 million to do something good for their families. Put the kids in school, buy a new home, hell, maybe even get the hell out of America. We always support that on this side. Anyway, time for election news. And we're not going to start with Trump and Kamala. We're not going to start with that. We're going to start about the basic right to vote. And I would like to know, I should have made this a poll. Should felons have the right to vote? I would like to know what you think if you're listening right now. Should people who have been convicted of felonies have the right to vote, even while they're in prison? Maybe not even after they come out of prison. I'm inclined to say yes. I'm inclined to say a person in prison is no less a citizen just because they committed a crime and they're rightfully punished for that crime does not mean they should lose the right to have a say in how they're governed, especially when they're under the auspices of state. That's probably even more reason to have the right to vote. But let's continue here. So this was written by Brent Staples, and it says this: states are finally giving released prisoners a fundamental right. Published on October 17th, 2024 for the New York Times in their opinion section. So the Nebraska Supreme Court struck a blow for democracy on Wednesday when it ruled that people with felony convictions could register to vote on completion of their sentences instead of waiting 2 years as the state had historically required. The Nebraska legislature had eliminated the waiting period in a bipartisan this year, but the Secretary of State tried to block the new law, asserting that it was unconstitutional. The state Supreme Court ruling could add thousands of voters to the rolls, momentous development at a time of hotly contested elections at all levels. But this is the thing. I know people on the left generally like this, but we have to consider some of the prisoners are right-wing, some of the prisoners are uninformed voters. So before they have the right to vote, shouldn't they also get like some political education so they're not just like, yeah, MAGA, we want to make America great again, when most likely would totally support them being disenfranchised again? You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. But let's continue here. The change in Nebraska is part of a welcome trend outlined in a new analysis by the Sentencing Project, a nonprofit group that studies inequality in the criminal justice system. Since January 1st, 2020, 11 states, including California, Connecticut, Iowa, Minnesota, have expanded voting rights for some non-incarcerated people with felony convictions. As states have enacted policy to curtail disenfranchisement, there has also been a decline in the number of people in prison, on probation, and out on parole. As a consequence, the disenfranchised population has fallen from a little under 6 million in 2016 to about 4 million today, which is a positive thing. So here are the people that were disenfranchised back in 1960. What is that? 1 million people. That's insane. Even back then in 1960, these numbers should not be in this high figures, right? It should not be 7-figure numbers that there are this many people in America that do not have the right to vote because they committed a crime. Absolutely not. This is a crime in and of itself. Can you believe that? Can you believe that right now in America, 2020, in 2024, 4 million people do not have the right to vote just because they committed a crime? That's a shame. But I would like to know what you think. Should criminals have the right to vote? Convicted, should they have the right to vote? I would say yes. Like to know what you think. Continuing here. It's important to bear in mind that fewer than a third of those who are barred from the polls are incarcerated. Approximately 72% of those not allowed to vote are living in their communities, on probation, on parole, or after completion of their sentences, carrying the shame of being denied a right that is fundamental to democracy. The denial of this right casts a shadow over the communities where those who are locked out of the electoral system tend to live. Young people in these enclaves grow up with the unfortunate example of neighbors and family members who cannot vote and are permanently disengaged from the political process. The all too common lack of clarity about voting rules as they apply to former offenders leaves many Americans who are eligible to vote fearful of walking into the polls. Mass disenfranchisement as practiced in the United States stands in sharp contrast with how other democracies handle this matter. Our peer nations would never think of stripping the vote from their citizens as casually as we do. In fact, many nations keep inmates connected to the societies in which most will inevitably return by setting up polling places behind prison walls. Can you believe it? Let me know if your country does that. In your country, do they set up polling places where the people are locked up? That's crazy. Imagine doing like mad burpees and then going to the poll station in the chow hall. Mad burpees in the cell, hang at the convicts, beating on your chest, freestyling and shit. Then you go down to the chow hall and cast your vote. And Switzerland is crazy. International analysis invariably show that the United States is an outlier in permanently marginalizing people who are convicted of crimes. One especially troubling thing about state laws that bar people convicted of crimes from voting is where those bans come from. They proliferated during the late 19th and early 20th centuries as states took extraordinary measures to prevent Black Americans from exercising the right to vote under the 15th Amendment. For anybody who doesn't know, who's not from America, just so you know, in America, slavery is illegal unless you're in prison. if you're in prison. In our Constitution, it says this. In the same amendment that says slavery is not allowed, it's okay to enslave people as long as they're in jail. And we have not changed that to this day. 150 plus years since the end of the Civil War, it is still legal to have slaves in America just as long as they're in jail. So guess what happened after the end of slavery? The white supremacists started locking up mad black people all over the South and disenfranchising them because there was nothing in the Constitution saying that you have a right to vote. I repeat, in the American Constitution, there is nothing saying you have the inherent right to. It is not a constitutionally protected right to vote in America, which is why so many states say, you know what, if somebody's locked up, they no longer have their civil rights. They no longer have their right to vote. Which is a travesty, showing that we do not live in a democracy in America. Continuing here. They proliferated. The laws barring people to vote, the laws barring people from voting if they've had criminal offenses, proliferated during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, as states took extraordinary measures to prevent black Americans exercising the right to vote under the 15th Amendment. This racially discriminatory system normalized disenfranchisement, allowing it to spread unchecked. The sooner the United States parts with this toxic legacy, the better off it will be. Now, this guy didn't say here in the text, Brett Staples didn't say, where these laws come from, but we know these are racist ass laws. But sorry, I can't say that. That would be critical race theory. Anyway, now we're getting to the candidates today. And recently, Kamala did a interview, I believe it was with Charlemagne the God, where she said she went to a black church growing up as a kid. And then she listed the address and the pastor, put everything out on Front Street. Now, I read Kamala's entire book. I read it on live stream, and you can go check it out on my channel in the playlist Book Reacts. We read The Truths We Hold. And we finished that about a week ago or so. But I do not remember that part of the book. I believe in chapter 1, she talked about her early life growing up in the area. Like, I remember all that, but I don't remember the part about the black church. I just remember her going to like community centers with like, black activists and stuff like that. And, having a mixed community around her. But I don't remember Kamala saying that she grew up in a black church. But anyway, she made that claim. And now we're going to read this article talking about it. So here it is. Harris's faith inside and outside the black church. Her biography embodies the multi-faith, pluralistic, and increasingly secular America she is bidding to lead. And here's a picture of a black congregation. I imagine that's the back of Kamala's head. Yep, we would recognize that perm bob cut anywhere. No, I think Kamala, that's perm. That's no perm. Kamala got that natural. She got that. You think she got 2C or 3C? You think she's been straightening all this time? I don't know. Anyway, let's get some reading done because I got to go to class in about 40 minutes. Let's go. So this was published on October 21st, 2024 by Ruth Graham and Clyde McGrady for the New York Times as well. So the Reverend Dr. Amos Brown was taking his usual Sunday afternoon nap in late July when a long-term congregant, Vice President Kamala Harris, called. Pastor, I need for you to pray for Doug, for me, and for this nation. Dr. Brown, pastor of the Third Baptist Church of San Francisco, recalled her saying, I've decided to run for president. President Biden had announced only a few hours before that he was abandoning his re-election campaign, and he endorsed Miss Harris almost immediately. The prayer Dr. Brown, 83, offered was drawn from a Bible verse that Miss Harris quotes often herself. What does the Lord require of you but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God? Amen. Amen. God is good all the time. Amen. That quiet moment is a rare glimpse into the private spiritual life of Miss Harris, whose biography embodies the multi-faith, pluralistic, and increasingly secular America she is bidding to lead. The daughter of a Hindu mother, Christian father, she went on to marry a Jewish man in a ceremony that incorporated both Indian and Jewish traditions. According to local media reports at the time, the couple affixed a mezuzah, a local scroll and decorative case signifying a Jewish, on the doorpost of the vice presidential residence in 2021 at first. This is a problem. A lot of people have been talking about Kamala's not black, she's Indian and stuff like that. This woman she's Jewish. Kamala's Jewish. She's got a mezuzah on her wall. Kamala keeps a mezuzah on the wall of the vice presidential residence, That's crazy. I used to work for this Jewish guy in Hollywood, Florida, and he kept the mezuzah on the wall. I literally not know the name of that thing until today. And that's funny. That's funny because that guy was a very hardcore practicing Jew. And shout out to all the Jewish people out there. No problems with the Jews at all, but no Zionism, no Zionism. We say no to Zionism, but Kamala says to Zionism, more Zionism. Anyway, continuing here. Ms. Harris is a person who has gone through what it means to be living in a multi-faith democracy in her own life, said the Reverend Paul Brandeis Rauschenbusch, who heads Interfaith Alliance. Ms. Harris has visited several churches in the final weeks of the election. On Sunday, her 60th birthday, she made appearances at 2 in Georgia, coinciding with the campaign's Souls to the Polls effort to turn out black churchgoers. So here's a picture of Kamala Harris up in church, praying with the good folks, saying amen, hallelujah. Yes, indeed, family. Yes, indeed. But this is the thing I got to say. Why do American politics have to continue to be so influenced by religion? That religion has a place in society. I'm not an anti-theist of any sort, but I do think it's kind of weird, right? Like, I don't think in the UK they go to the churches and they're campaigning for the Tories or Labour Party and everything like that. You get what I'm saying? I don't know if Emmanuel Macron goes to a Catholic church and tries to lead mass or pray or even pray in mass with cameras around showing the people he's that religious. I don't think there are that many other like Western developed nations that put religion to the forefront so much in politics like America. I don't think in Canada, Justin Trudeau has to do that. It's very annoying. Anyway, Ashley Ike says she's everything apparently. She's a Jew who celebrates Kwanzaa. That's funny. That's funny. That's funny. I like that. I like that comment, Ashley. That was actually fire. Fire, fire, fire. Anyway, let's continue. So, most Americans do not see either Ms. Harris or Mr. Trump as particularly religious. In a poll in September by the Associated Press, RC Center for Public Affairs, 43% of respondents said they thought Ms. Harris was religious, and 35% said that's of Trump. All right? Avery says we donate. Nobody's hating right now. I like that Kamala joke. That's a fire joke. She's a Jew who celebrates Kwanzaa. That's fire. Shout out to my guy, Avery Adams. By the way, everybody who donates to this channel, I just want you to know you're helping support a young black man go to university abroad right now. I'm out here in Budapest, Hungary, trying to study, getting my bachelor's in sociology, then my master's, and eventually I'll be the first black American to get a PhD while out here in Budapest, Hungary. So support me while you do it. I paid $800. I paid 800 euros last week towards next semester's tuition. So anything you donate is greatly appreciated. Anyway, continuing here. Most Americans not see either Ms. Harris or Mr. Trump as particularly religious. In a poll in September by the Associated Press, NORC Center for Public Affairs, 43% of responded they thought Ms. Harris was religious, and 35% said that of Trump. That's funny. That's funny. I'm putting the numbers out here. 35% said that Trump is religious, and 40% said that Kamala was religious, which goes to show, like, Republicans used to have that high ground. Republicans used to have that high ground about religion and morality and stuff like that. But with Trump, it sort of all went down the drain. Anyway, Avery said, happy I'm able to stream, been super busy lately. Shout out to all the busy, hardworking black men out there, all the black men out there grinding, trying to get 6 figures, stack their paper up, stack that cheese, stack that fatty, baby. Don't hang out on live stream with me. You don't have to hang out on live stream with me. Go chase the paper. Go chase that paper. Anyway, Jose Cruz Torres says, touch grass. I'm outside all the time, and you can catch me anytime, Jose, all the time, holding hands with your mama, walking down the street, hand in hand, jolly as hell, her kissing on my chocolate skin. So it's a beautiful thing. We'll catch you outside, Jose, and I'll make your face touch grass, all right? All right, let's go here. Demolish Your Butt says, ha, ha, ha. Krishna says, LMAO. Anyway, continuing here. This perception may not be a problem for a significant share of Harris's base. As religious adherence declines broadly among Americans, the drop-off has been much steeper among Democrats. In 1999, about 60% of both Democrats and Republicans described themselves as religious, according to a polling by Gallup. By 2023, the figure among Republicans had barely moved, but only 37% of Democrats described themselves that way. Okay, so Ms. Harris said she grew up attending both a church, the 23rd Avenue Church of God in Oakland, and a Hindu temple. I'm giving y'all bait right now. I repeat, I did not read this in her book. See, this is the thing that I didn't like about that goddamn book I read by Kamala. I knew she was hiding some stuff. I do not remember once in that book saying she went to a Hindu temple. I do not remember reading in Kamala's book that she went to a Hindu temple. But now she's saying she went to a Black Baptist church and she went to a Hindu temple. Come on now. Come on now. Kamala. She is still a much better candidate than Trump. I'm going to say that. Y'all saw who I voted for. So I don't want anybody here coming saying like, Simon Hill, the Democratic shill. I did not vote for Kamala. I showed y'all who I voted for. So go check that out on my channel. But come on now, Kamala, you're feeding into the BS that people say that you be switching sides all the time. You're a chameleon. You're chameleon Kamala. Going to a Hindu temple and a Baptist church? What's up? Where they do that at? Anyway, Demolish Your Butt says, I'm not even American, but I love the information. Why not Trump, though? The thing about Trump, that's the major breaking point for me. He tried to steal the election. And lying, like the way he did it, I cannot respect that as a man. Like, what did our parents teach us growing up? You win some, you lose some, but you live at another day. And my parents didn't teach me that. I learned that on Friday. But this is the thing. Trump lost the election and didn't want to give up. He basically had a whole scheme to rig the thing and steal it. That's not cool, in my point. And that's all I got to say. So anyway, in Kamala's adulthood, she has maintained ties to the Black church and its tradition of political organizing. But though she peppers her speeches and interviews with references to scripture, she rarely speaks out about her faith in the personal terms that are familiar to evangelicals. Nor does she go to church as often as does President Biden, a Roman Catholic who attends Mass regularly. Her opponent, Donald J. Trump, was baptized as a Presbyterian and announced in 2020 that he identifies as a non-denominational Christian, a broad category that includes many evangelicals. This is Trump. I grew up Presbyterian, but now I'm a Christian. I'm the best Christian. I'm the #1 Christian. I love all the Christians, the Baptists, the Buddhists, the Muslims, whatever the Christians. I love the Christians. Anyway, he has displayed little familiarity with the Bible or with basic tenets of Christian theology. Even so, Mr. Trump has portrayed himself as a defender of conservative Christian values and has made baseless claims that Ms. Harris has presided over a wave of anti-Christian bigotry and wants to turn Christians into second-class citizens. Trump allies have also questioned her bonds to the Black church. Continuing here. A spokesman for the Harris campaign did not respond to a list of detailed questions about the candidate's faith and spiritual life. During a recent interview with the radio host Charlemagne, Ms. Harris defended herself from the charge that she hasn't engaged enough with Black churches. She framed the attack on her as a continuation of Mr. Trump's efforts to discredit her racial identity. They're trying to disconnect me from the people I've worked with and that I'm from, she said, adding, I grew up in the Black church. Now, I don't believe it. We don't believe it. This is the thing, man. All politicians lie, and Kamala is lying out her fucking neck. She is lying out of her neck talking about she grew up in a Black church. If she grew up in a church, why don't we remember seeing it in the book? Why don't we remember reading that in your book? You wrote your whole life story, and you went into great detail to talk about all the influences that were in your life. Never, come on now, the Black church, come on now. Greg Flew said he's against abortion, which is against God. Okay, you know what also is against God? Raping women, cheating on your wife, having multiple partners outside of marriage. Is that also not against God? Because Trump is perfectly fine with that. He is a literal convicted rapist. All right, Demolish Your Butt says, is faith important for being a president? In America, unfortunately, there's like this game that we play where we pretend like we want moral, honest, religiously motivated people leading us when that's absolutely not true. We just want people that know how to play the game and present that image well. If you read the book, The Prince by Machiavelli gives that advice to princes and kings. You don't have to be religious. You just have to make the people believe that you're religious. This is what Niccolo Machiavelli wrote in the book, The Prince. And go check out that book. All right. Hope says, you cannot say she is lying about growing up in the church. I grew up in the church, but don't talk about it or on a regular basis today. That's fair, but that's Hope. If you wrote a book about your life, which we read Kamala's book on this live stream, that Hope. We read her book. Not once did she mention the Black church. She talked about almost everything in her life, but she did not mention the church. So that's the thing. If I'm not even a Christian, but if I were to write my life story, I got to write about the moments that I had to wake up early, they put on my good shoes, those wingtip shoes, my small little suits, and go to church. I would write that in my life story, as I assume you would if you wrote a book about your life. All right. Greg Flew says he's not a convicted rapist. You're going to have to show yourself. No, Trump is a rapist. Trump is a rapist. Let's find the. Hold on, wait. Judge clarifies right here. Hold on, wait. I'm going to put this up for Greg Flew right here. Judge clarifies. Judge clarifies. Hold on, wait, sorry. Judge clarifies. Put this shit down. Judge clarifies. Yes, Trump was found to have raped E. Jean Carroll. I repeat, and this is easy for you to find. It's not hard to find. Donald Trump's sexual misconduct allegations. Jury Trump liable for sexual abuse. Donald Trump raped E. Jean Carroll. Here's what a jury had to say, etc., etc. Do the research yourself. But yes, the judge said what Trump her jump on a woman while she's in a changing room in a department store is textbook definition of rape. Okay? Yeah, so don't come in here talking about he is a rapist. He was not criminally convicted, but he was found civilly liable of rape. Okay? If you're going to say Trump isn't guilty of rape, then OJ ain't murdered nobody. And I know Greg Flew is a white man, so I just really them off. OJ ain't murdered nobody. OJ ain't murdered nobody. Criminally, he wasn't found guilty in court of murder. Civilly, he was, but he ain't murdered nobody. Okay? Anyway, continuing here. So it is Mr. Trump, she said, whose values are out of step with the teachings of justice, mercy, and kindness. A reference to Micah chapter 6, verse 8, the Bible verse that Dr. Brown invoked when she sought prayers for her candidacy. God is good, Charlemagne said. Every day, all the time, Ms. Harris responded. A version of the common call and response heard in black churches. When addressing black religious audiences, Ms. Harris sprinkles in Bible verses. She closed a recent address at a North Carolina church with a citation from Psalms chapter 30, verse 5. Though weeping may endure for a night, joy cometh in the morning. That had the audience clapping and shouting in recognition before she finished reciting the verse. For about 20 years, Ms. Harris has been a member of Dr. Brown's church, a congregation established before the Civil War where Martin Luther King Jr. once preached. The first connection between Dr. Brown and Ms. Harris was political but not spiritual. She was introduced to the pastor and civil rights activist by Willie Brown, the mayor of San Francisco at the time, and went on to advise the pastor on his campaign for a seat on the city's Board of Supervisors in the 1990s. He won. So here is apparently Kamala's black pastor. Here is the pastor right here that supposedly was with Kamala. Let me jump to the comments. Kamal says, it's been a while, Simon. Shout out to Kamal, jumping in. Shout out to everybody up in here. We're just reading about Kamala's experience in the black church. She went to Hindu temples, keeps Jewish symbols of her faith on the wall and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, anyway, Kamal says voting red. Everybody voting red. I would like to see what the polls are saying now. More people are saying voting blue. I'm looking at the polls right now. It's tied. Vote blue, vote red. Okay, interesting. Let's go. Let's continue here in this text. I'm almost done. We're not going to be on long. So we're reading here from the New York Times. So although Ms. Harris left the Bay Area years ago and has since assembled a network of faith advisors from predominant black churches across the country, Dr. Brown said the Third Baptist remains her spiritual home. She is not known to attend services regularly in Washington or Los Angeles, where she moved after marrying Doug Emhoff. Dr. Brown pointed out that the evangelist Billy Graham was a member of Southern Baptist Church in Dallas for decades, even though he never lived in the city. In an interview last week, Dr. Brown described Ms. Harris as a Christian, a follower of Jesus of Nazareth, whose faith was expressed primarily in action rather in rhetoric. He offered as an example a pilot program she initiated in 2005 to reduce recidivism among young nonviolent drug offenders, which he characterized as an expression of compassion and seeing the dignity in all people. Okay. All right, we're going to wrap this article up because it's just more, talking about faith, and this is just gross. Why do elected officials have to prove their faith to the American people? This is what it should be in America. Nobody cares about your religion. Nobody's about your religion. I shouldn't have to worry about if my president is a Christian, Muslim, atheist, Jew, whatever. It only matters, do you have good policies? I am so sick and tired of the religiousness in America influencing the left and the right. It's gross, it's disgusting, it's bothersome, it's backwards, it's against the secular ideas of the state. It shouldn't be this way. All right. Anyway, says vote blue. Lazarus says vote red. Josue says Latinos for Trump. Andale. And S Power Junkie says all negative advertisements against Trump. Okay, I'm not Well, we're going to talk about Trump. Let's talk about Trump, man. Let's talk about Trump, man. Anyway, when patriarchy trumps race. So this article here is about Trump having so many black voters, blacks for Trump. Okay, some people like to say N-words for Trump, unfortunately. We're going to talk about this phenomenon. This was written by the columnist Charles Blow. And guess where Charles Blow is from? He's from Louisiana. That's what, anywhere Louisiana brothers go, always turn up, and show out. I like that. I like that. Charles Blow made a great documentary a few months ago, last year, called The South to Black Power. I really want to review it with Acti, though Acti will probably kill me for having her watch that. But we're going to talk about that documentary. It's about black people moving back down south to like states like South Carolina, Mississippi, Louisiana to gain political power. But that's for another time. And honestly, how I feel about that, that's horrible. That's a horrible strategy. Anyway, we're going to talk about black men. Black men supporting Trump. Black men love. What did Donald Trump say? Didn't he say a few Trump love black men? Did y'all see that? Trump, I love black men. Do y'all remember when Trump said that? Hold on. Y'all got to see this video real quick. Hold on. Wait, where is it? Here is it. Hold on real quick.
It's also affecting the Hispanic people. And my numbers with...
Y'all see it? Did y'all hear how Trump says he loves black men? Kind of gross. Kind of made me feel uncomfortable. I felt really uncomfortable.
And it's also affecting the Hispanic people. And my numbers with the black and especially black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I have gone through the roof with black men. Black men. I don't do quite as well with black women, I must say. I don't know why, but I'm sure that'll work out too. But I do appreciate it. I do, and we're doing unbelievably with Hispanic. The Hispanic population is going to grow. Men, I love black men. I love them. Men, I love black men. I love them. I love men. I love black men. I love them.
I feel sexually assaulted. The way Trump said, I love black men, I feel like I need to file a case. I feel like I need to file a lawsuit like how everybody's come on Diddy. That is hella weird. I love black men. I love black men. Who says that? Acti don't even talk to me that way. Acti don't even say, I love man. I love you, black man. Commando 21 jump here. That's a right-wing fascist up in the chat. He said, embrace the love, Simon. I can't embrace that type of love. When Trump say, I love black men like that, no, I feel assaulted. Oh, I feel touched. Okay. Demolish Your Butt says, as a white person, I think it's also weird as fuck. Okay. Right. Anyway, I'm going to go to the comments right here. I'm going to read Demolish Your Butt. He says, I mean Trump. I'm not a big Trump fan, but for a business view, I think he's a president. But I also agree with you. Politics and faith shouldn't be in politics at all. Faith always leads to war. Kind of facts. I agree with that. But let's talk about black men loving Trump. So Charles Blow says this. Avery says, with a name like Demolish Your Butt, that triggered weirdness for you. I'm done. All right. Anyway, so for a year, as I've talked to black men and voting organizers, I've picked up on discontent with the Democratic Party from some black men, but I wasn't sure what to think of it or how widely that sentiment stretched. Apart from my reporting, polling suggests an erosion of Democratic support among black men, though I remained somewhat critical. This is all Charles Blow talking. So when a campaign unfurls a closing stretch strategy to reach and retain a particular group of voters, as the Harris campaign clearly has done with black men, it means that something, whether in public polls or in internal polls, has raised a very real concern. Even a worst case scenario, something like 70% of black men that the most recent New York Times Siena College national poll found in favor of Kamala Harris would still mean that black men strongly support Democrats and the Democratic nominee more than men in any other racial demographic group. Let me make this absolutely clear. Every time the election cycle happens, all the pundits, all the pontificators, all the political analysts say, what are black men going to do? Black men going to do? They never talk this way about white men. They never, even though white men, by and large, always vote Republican. And black men, more than white men vote Republican, we vote Democrat. It's always, well, are black men going to finally vote for Republicans? Are men going to get off the Democratic plantation? Are black men going to vote for their own enslavement again? Like, why is it always fixated on who we're going to vote for when, by and large, we do vote as a block? By and large, most black men are supporting Kamala. By and large, most black men are on the left. I don't get why every time the election cycle happens, it's always, the Republicans are finally siphoning off black men. When, by and large, it's still hella strong. It's stronger than any demographic of people. The only people stronger in voting in one block are black women, followed by black men. Anyway, I'm going to hear Trump has the most black men supporting him since Abraham Lincoln. Commando 2021, I got to ask you, do you say shit like this? Do you say this?
Black men, I love them. I love them. Black men, I love them. I love them. Black men, I love them.
Commando 21, do you wake up every morning and say, I love men, I love them? Is that how y'all gonna win black men support, by being lusty and zesty? Anyway, I'm gonna read here. So even a worst case scenario, something like 70% of black men support Kamala Harris, and most black men vote for the Democratic Party, is what Charles Blow is saying. But that slippage of support from recent past election cycles is worrisome. In a tight race, it can make a difference. Barack Obama has come out to give a stern message to black men. Harris has put forth an opportunity agenda for black men and done a series of interviews with black male media figures. Time and energy in the last days of a campaign are precious. She wouldn't be directing all this effort towards the black male electorate if her team wasn't worried. Obama attributed part of the potential drop in support of Harris, compared with supporting him during his presidential races, to the idea that some black men just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. Is that really what it comes down to? I don't think it's black men being misogynistic, because amongst black American men, we are not misogynistic. I know somebody's gonna point out Snoop Dogg and Jay-Z and Tupac and bitches ain't shit and hoes and tricks and shit like that. But by and large, most black men love mamas. We love our sisters. We love our daughters. Hell, we love our side pieces. We love our baby mamas, even though that bitch crazy. You get what I'm saying? Like, black men are not misogynistic like other groups of men. We don't run around killing our women. We don't choke our women. We don't slap our women all the time. If you're going to talk about the past, if you're going to bring up Ike Turner, that's a different thing. You get what I'm saying? But it's not like that. Black men are not heavily misogynistic. Okay, so I don't want people thinking black men aren't voting for Kamala because, by and large, we're misogynistic. And by and large, most black men will vote for Kamala regardless. I voted for Cornel West, and y'all can find that on my channel. All right. Anyway, let's see. All right. Krishner says he thinks Commando 2021 really does love black men like that. Every time Commando 2021 you post, you just got to say, I love black men. That's what you just say it, man. Just come out the closet. Anyway. The patriarchy is more complex than that. Invitational pull is incredibly strong, and there are many arenas in which it is active. And because the discontent I've detected among some black men has discrete factions, differing manifestations of patriarchal views have different ways of reaching black men at the level policy as well as perception. There are black power advocates who are anti-abortion because they want more black babies. They see a black population that is growing more slowly than other minority groups. Although polls find that nearly 3/4 of black people support legal abortion, a June Pew Research Center found that half of black men and black women believe that the government promotes abortion and birth control to suppress the black population. Nearly 2/3 of young black men had heard of this theory. I want to talk about that right now. There's a lot of people following stupid people like Kanye West. There's a lot of people following talking points that are coming out of the mouth of Candace Owens, who say that Margaret Sanger created Planned Parenthood to make black people have abortions for our babies so we could have less of them. And you know what? Part of that is partially true, but it's part of a larger eugenics movement that was happening in America at the time. I want to show y'all a paper I'm writing for university. I'm finishing this paper today, and it's titled Applied Eugenics in the 20th Century America in Furtherance of Racial Purity and the Origin of 19th Century Racial Thinking. I'm working on that paper right now for school, and I'm writing about how back in the day, it was widespread eugenics practice in America. And it wasn't just left doing it or the right doing it. Most white supremacists back then said, you know what, we got to promote eugenics. Black people have bad genes. We have to try to sterilize them. We have to try to encourage them not to have children. We have to abort their babies and all that sort of stuff. So that was widespread. You get what I'm saying? So it's a shame that some people really do think that the government is pushing Black Americans to have abortions and stuff like that, because that's not the case now today. But it is partially true because that was the case back in the day. You get what I'm saying? So, Demolish Your Butt says, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to vote for Kamala Harris, yet I don't know enough about her to say she would be a good woman president. Well, you don't have to classify woman president. She's just going to be the president. And will she be a president? If your important issues are, Gaza and Israel and, the conflict over there, and whether you think the genocide should end, no. If you think that Ukraine should get more weapons and funding and that sort of stuff like that, then yes. If you think America should guarantee women to have the right to have abortions and do what they want with their bodies, then yes. If you think that marijuana should be legal, then yes. If you think that, America should continue to invest in its infrastructure, then yes. Then I think Kamala would be a good president if those are the things you want. But she doesn't have enough of the good things that I want for me to say I should vote for her, which is why I voted for Cornel West. And I encourage all of you to vote for Cornel West, or just practice your right to vote. Just go in the booth, man. It's fun. It's fun. Anyway, so let's talk about this. There are Black opponents of migration who chafe if American resources at any level of government go to accommodating recent migrants rather than being spent on native-born communities. Among them are those who work with their hands, whose work requires more proficiency with the hammer than proficiency with language. People who weren't bothered by Donald Trump's comments about immigrants taking Black jobs because they sense a job market threats from the arrival of more immigrants. Then factor in Black men who are against foreign intervention, whom one might call America firsters, who cannot reconcile spending billions of tax dollars in the Middle East and Ukraine while Black communities in this country struggle with long-standing underinvestment. When it's to the war between Israel and Hamas, there are those who view the Black American experience as connected to all forms of global oppression, who find the mounting death toll in Gaza unconscionable. It's not that they believe Trump would have had a better Middle East policy. It's that they're stung by what they see as betrayal of the Biden-Harris administration. But how could Black men not support a Black woman? Or more disturbingly, even with misgivings about Harris, how could they support Trump, who years ago submitted to an agreement with the Justice Department that his country wouldn't discriminate against prospective minority tenants, and who has a history of racist statements and actions, from his promotions of birtherism to his Muslim ban? For a long time, anti-racism and compassionate safety net policies were the glue that held nearly all Black voters together with Democrats. But the patriarchy speaks to men in a particular way, and more Black men may simply be drifting in that direction. I want to say, this is crazy. But I do think the red pill movement, the Kevin Samuels, the Andrew Tates, and what we've been experiencing the past few years online has definitely influenced the culture of men. And those can be men of color or white men. You get what I'm saying? It's definitely influenced the culture. So I do think there is some patriarchy creeping into Black America. But I want to say once again, I do not believe Black American at its core is misogynistic. It's misogynistic. There is misogyny within Black American culture. But I do not believe, by and large, that there is misogyny as a root part of our culture, as modern Black American culture. We love these hoes. Y'all can debate me about that. Okay? Anyway, so Demolish Your Butt says, how does the general population over there think about the Ukraine-Russia war that's going on? Just wondering as a Dutch person. In my opinion, Demolish Your Butt, I think most people don't want to see Russia just invade countries, and we want to see peace in Europe, and I'm talking about America. But I think a lot of Americans are very, very upset about the amount of money that we give to Ukraine. Technically, we're not giving money to Ukraine. Like, Zelensky isn't getting a suitcase full of cash, but we're paying our defense contractors who make missiles, bombs, guns, planes, all that sort of stuff. Ukraine has to buy weapons from us. We give them money to pay our private military contractors. That's really what is happening when we give money to Ukraine, okay? So Krishner says, Black community has always supported the Palestinian people. By and large, yes. Commando 21 say, we cut the funding and let them fight it out. We've given Ukraine enough money. Ain't that the truth? You might think that, but I also think, Commando 2021.
Love Black men, I love them.
All right, continuing on here. So Kushner says, facts, it's so easy to brainwash young people or men online. You already have a right-leaning view on the world, whether you're a it or not. Facts, facts. I hope you're not saying I have a right-leaning view. I consider myself on the left. But yeah, definitely what's happening online with the radicalization of young men across the world, we're going to see the ramifications of this for decades to come. There are young men right now who are growing up online in these incel communities or adjacent communities who are going to grow up to hate women, not get laid, and do horrible, horrible, horrific acts of terrorism. And that is not hyperbole. That is not hyperbole. These young men, hopefully not black, because right now it's mostly young white men who go out there and shoot up a gay club or or a girls sorority and stuff like that. But I do think young men will continue to become radicalized because a lot of the messaging that's happening online, but also because of the socioeconomic conditions outside where young men don't have upward mobility, if that makes sense. You feel me? So, yeah. Anyway. Yeah, Demolish Your Butt says, but that also does generate money within your country, right? I mean, that would mean trickle down. So yeah, if I work for a defense manufacturer where I make the planes that are going to Ukraine, sure, I might get paid and maybe people adjacent to me might see the money circulate. But trickle down economics doesn't happen in America. Like a company makes $1 billion and then, the rest of us, well, that's not how it works. So, Commando 21 says, no, it doesn't demolish. It drives up inflation with the insane amount of spending. Commando 21, I mean, what do you like? Do you like the U.S. military or you don't? Because America is basically funding its own military by giving Ukraine money to just pay ourselves back. And up at that, we get to kill Russians for free. This is the thing I don't understand about the right wing. They hate Russia. They hate, any enemy to America. They want America to have the biggest, baddest military on the planet, but they never want to use it. I'm so confused. The right wing got us into Afghanistan and Iraq and Vietnam and Korea and all these sorts of wars. And now all of a sudden it's become, we need isolationists. I'm so confused. Can you make it make sense, right wing guys? But anyway, I got to go to English class. I got to go teach. Anyway, I'll just leave y'all with this clip one more time before we get out of here.
And I love them. Black men, I love them. And I love black men. I love them.
All right. And y'all be easy out there.